Hello and welcome. So today I want to share with you 5 fragrances that have been recently launched, now in 2025, and not all of them have worked for me. So I wanted to come on here and share them with you because a couple of them have immediately become fragrances that I think are going to become lifers in my collection. But, there is definitely one that did not work for me at all. It was a total disappointment. I did not expect to not enjoy this fragrance, but I have to tell you that there are a couple of others that are to me kind of groundbreaking. So I also want to share them with you. The other thing about these fragrances is that although we're still in the summer season, I think that they are, for the most part, fragrances that you could use all throughout the year, and that most importantly will transition you beautifully from the summer into the fall season. So let's go ahead and jump right in because we have 5 fragrances to discuss today. But if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos multiple times a week, and on this channel we love to talk about all types of fragrances. So if that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. So let's go ahead and start with the latest fragrance from Roja, and this one is Isola Verde. And I am showing you the bottle because it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at that, the way that it twinkles. I just absolutely love it. So this is a fragrance that was just launched, I don't know, maybe like a month ago or so. And when I first heard about it, I had decided that I was going to pick it up because it has the note of guava. And you guys know how I love a good guava fragrance, right? And guava is not one of those notes that is easy to get right, in my opinion, because guava can make the fragrance a bit polarizing, right? But coming from the house of Roja, I expected it to be done to perfection. Now, I did receive this in PR, so I was so excited when I just got it and I didn't have to, pick it up. But I have to tell you, let's talk about this fragrance in detail. So this fragrance is designated as an aromatic, fruity fragrance. And I have to tell you that I do agree because I do find this fragrance to be quite aromatic. Now, this is a fragrance that opens up kind of citrusy because it has some clementine and it has orange. And in the opening, I almost immediately get the florals. So after that initial like citrusy effect, you are going to get those florals. And for me, it's really all about the white florals. Another thing that I wanted to let you know is that this is a fragrance that does have ambroxan. And I know that many fan members, have an issue with fragrances that have ambroxan. So just keep that in mind. Now, what I am loving about this fragrance is that it is one that has it all going on, right? Which doesn't surprise me coming from Roja, but it has everything going on. You're going to find some florals, you're going to find some fruitiness, a tad of woodiness. There's a creamy quality to that woodiness coming from like sandalwood and like patchouli. It is a touch green. It doesn't necessarily have an animalic quality to it, but there's just something that makes me wonder if it's a tad animalic because I haven't been able to put my finger on what is it that's giving the fragrance that added layer of character. So while it is more about the florals and those fruity notes, it is a fragrance that definitely has quite a bit of character. The one thing that I do want to tell you is that it's not necessarily a bit boozy in the opening, but it does become a bit boozy at the dry down. And it has a beautifully like smooth tobacco note that just plays very well with all the other notes. Now, when it comes to that fruitiness, I can tell you that the fruitiness for me is all about the melon. More about the melon than the guava. To me, like the guava takes a back seat and allows the melon to do its thing, which is very, very interesting because when I initially looked at the note structure and I saw the melon and the guava, I thought to myself, there is no way that the melon is going to shine because the guava is going to take over. Well, I was wrong because I don't know how they did it, but the melon definitely has its moment. The guava is always present, not necessarily from the opening, but you are going to get the guava. And at the dry down, the guava is definitely present. The fragrance is sweet, but it's not very sweet. I wouldn't even say that it's necessarily sweet. It's just a tad sweet. That's all that I really get. Now, while it does have the note of clementine, allegedly, I don't necessarily get clementine. I get the orange, but not necessarily the clementine or the sweetness that you typically experience with a fragrance that has clementine. When it comes to the spicy notes, the one that I pick up the most is the cardamom and slight touches of the pink pepper midway in the olfactory journey. But the cardamom is the one that I really get at the dry down. This is a fragrance that I think is one that you definitely want to try. Is it a safe blind buy? I think that it is to a certain extent. It's not a polarizing fragrance, but it's not a common type of scent profile, if you know what I mean. I think that to a certain extent, it is a bit groundbreaking because it has such a complex olfactory journey with so many different notes and so many accords stemming from it. I can't say that this is a fruity floral fragrance. It's floral, it's fruity, it's aromatic, it is fresh spicy at times, and it's warm spicy at others. And it is a fragrance that I definitely think that you could pull off for any season of the year. To me, this is perfectly suited for absolutely any age, and it is unisex, leaning a tad to the feminine side. As far as performance, I'm really excited about it because it is giving me a full day wear. It's not beast mode in any kind of way. It's not, anything super special when it comes to performance, but there is an inherent smoothness to the fragrance that you will experience all throughout the day. And the fragrance will also give you like swifts of its beautiful scent throughout the wear. And I'm really, really enjoying that. What I do find a bit groundbreaking about this one is that I've never experienced a guava done the way it's been done here, right? Typically, when I find a fragrance with a guava note, the guava is this very present, not necessarily dominant, but very present. It makes a bold statement. Here, the guava plays very well with all of the other notes. It allows the melon to have its moment. It allows the florals to have their moment, the woody notes, the spicy notes. Everything comes together beautifully. But in the backdrop, in the background, you always have that very smooth guava. And I am here for it because it allows this fragrance to be quite versatile. Here, I'm also not picking up on a very, there is patchouli here, but the patchouli in no way and at any point does it become that very strong presence patchouli. While the fragrance does have a tad of greenness, as I said before, it is again very well balanced with all of the other notes and accords. I tell you, what I love about this fragrance is its smoothness. You can pick up on so many things in this fragrance, so many different accords, but there is an inherent smoothness and ease of wear that is what I think makes this fragrance groundbreaking, in my opinion. I am absolutely loving this fragrance and I give it an 8.5 out of 10. So the next fragrance that I want to share with you today is the latest from Carolina Herrera, and it's not La Bomba. I am going to talk about La Bomba today, but I want to start with Cedar Chic. Now, Cedar Chic is a fragrance that is absolutely beautiful. And from the first moment that I heard about it, I shared it with you during a Saturday morning Chatty Scent Corner, and I told you that this was one that I knew I was going to blind buy. And when I went to pick it up, it initially sold out from Harrods. So I had to stalk the website until I was able to find it, order it, and it made it safely to me because I just knew that this was going to be special, and I was not wrong. This is a fragrance that is absolutely gorgeous and perfection, in my opinion, for any season of the year. This is signature scent worthy, and I can tell you that it immediately became one of those fragrances that I'm thinking may end up becoming a lifer for me. Now, this is a fragrance that opens up with like a burst of aldehydes and very, very citrusy. It is definitely musk-based, And the musk here is definitely to the tune of a 4 to 5, right? And I rarely find fragrances that have this much musk present to it. The musk, to my nose, is also a tad animalic, but in the best way possible. It adds like a layer of character and oomph to the fragrance. The musk, while being, that 4 to 5, is one that pairs very well with all the other notes and accords in the fragrance. The fragrance is like a clean type of fragrance, but not one that is necessarily going to make you smell like laundry, if you know what I mean, but it is definitely a clean fragrance with a very citrusy quality in the opening. But at that, throughout the entire wear of the fragrance, you are going to have a serious amount of woodiness in the backdrop. One thing that I can also tell you is that I pick up on a bouquet of white florals, but they have only disclosed orange blossom. And I think that the notes that have been shared are more to address what the keynotes are, because I am picking up on other white florals, but I do agree that the orange blossom is the star of this fragrance. It is my understanding that this is a fragrance that was inspired by the brands, Carolina Herrera's brand's iconic shirt, that white, crisp, perfectly tailored shirt. That's what this is supposed to be inspired by. And it is supposed to evoke, that elegance and sophistication that we find in all things Carolina. And I have to tell you that I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what you're going to get from this fragrance. The feel of this fragrance is that of a very elegant and sophisticated lady. To me, this is a completely feminine fragrance, appropriate for any age, any season of the year, any occasion, perfect for the office, perfect for a formal event. Dress it up, dress it down. It is just beautiful. Now, I also think it is very understandable that this fragrance is not beast mode, because it is designed to be a smooth, beautiful fragrance. And this is a fragrance that gives me no more than 7 hours if I don't overspray or reapply it throughout the day. It does give me 7 hours with a moderate projection, but a very strong sillage that definitely gets me compliments. But I find that sillage doesn't last all day. It's probably like half a day, probably like 3 to 4 hours. And after that, it does become a very intimate skin scent that doesn't really linger or trail very much. But I tell you, I think that is a magnificently beautiful exchange, for wearing this fragrance, because I tell you, this scent is absolutely glorious. Although I think that this is more of a feminine fragrance, can I envision a gent wearing this? Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, what this is designed to be is more of like a clean musk based fragrance that will give you that clean feel while still remaining elegant and sophisticated, and adding a bit of oomph from that woodiness that I mentioned before. To me, this is an absolutely solid release from Carolina. I can't speak highly enough of it, and I really do give it a 10 out of 10. So the next fragrance that I want to share with you is one of the fragrances that I referred to when in the opening I told you that a couple of them really didn't work for me. And this is a fragrance that I had shared with you during a Saturday morning chatty scent corner. And I gave you my first impression, and it was truly my first impression. And I did really enjoy it until I started testing it on skin. And I tested it a couple of days, and then I did a third one because I just really wanted to make sure that what I'm going to share with you today is really what I'm picking up and how I feel about the fragrance overall. And the fragrance that I'm sharing with you now is from Carolina Herrera, and this one is La Bomba. Now, I had already shared with you this very interesting bottle. This is supposed to emulate, of course, as you can see, like a butterfly. And it is a very original, creation, a very original thought and design for this bottle. This is a fragrance that, has several perfumers, but one of them is definitely Quentin Bish. And I was just very excited to try this fragrance. So here's what I have to say. This to me is a fun fragrance that is best suited for the seasons of spring and summer, not necessarily for fall and winter. This is like a fun and flirty fragrance that while being fun and flirty, is not necessarily juvenile. But the thing about this fragrance is that it is not groundbreaking for me. What I started to find as I tried it on skin and tested it for complete days 3 times is that it reminds me a little bit of other DNAs, not specifically remind me of other fragrances, but it does remind me of other DNAs, and some of them linked to fragrances that Quentin Bish may have been a part of. To me, this fragrance is just not groundbreaking, but let's talk a little bit more about it. So this is a fragrance that opens up very, very floral, and as soon as I sniff it, it's just bringing other fragrances to mind immediately. And again, I don't want you to think that I'm saying that this is the same or that it's, copying another fragrance. No, it's just that the notes and the accords and the way the fragrance has been done does remind me of other fragrances for sure. But it does open very floral. It does have quite a strong tropical accord to it, a tropical feel to it for sure. It has a ton of vanilla. I wouldn't say that this is fresh really. This to me is not cloying either, but there's a little bit of density to it from first sniff and throughout the wear of the fragrance. There's just something, I think that the level of fruitiness in the fragrance is what brings that kind of like dense feel to it that I get. But all in all, for me, this is just not groundbreaking. It is also a fragrance that to my nose and on my skin is very, very sweet, bordering on cloying. That's what I started to find, as I started to test it on skin. It became like sweeter and sweeter, just a very, very sweet, very fruity kind of fragrance where the florals actually take like a back seat to the fruity notes. So this is a fragrance that, while I think you could pull it off any season of the year, I think it's really best for spring and summer. This is appropriate for absolutely any age. To me, this is not unisex in any kind of way. I cannot see a gentleman wearing this fragrance at all whatsoever. This is a fragrance that, to me, it's just not groundbreaking. And the performance here is quite good because it does give me a full day wear with kind of like a moderate projection and a moderate sillage, but it does give me a full day wear with no problem. But this is not a fragrance that I see myself pulling on the regular for sure, because again, it is just reminding me of too many other fragrances, and it is very, very sweet, and it's just not groundbreaking. Is it underwhelming? To some, it may be underwhelming. For me, it's not that it's necessarily underwhelming. Again, it's just not groundbreaking. And when you try fragrances all the time, you're always looking for something that's really going to stand out amongst the rest. But all in all, this is a lovely fragrance. It's just really not going to be for me. So the next fragrance that I want to share with you today is the latest from Dries van Noten, and this one is Havana Gold. I have so been looking to sharing this review with you because this fragrance is stellar. So this is a fragrance that when you look at the notes structure and you start to think about it, I have shared with you during a Saturday morning chatty scent corner that this was a fragrance that while I was very excited about it, I wondered if it would lean to the masculine side, because it does have tobacco, it has leather, it has some spicy notes, it has some citrusy notes, but not quite a lot. That's not what the fragrance is about. And overall, I just thought, I need to be really careful because this one may very well lean to the masculine side. But I am here to tell you that I was super wrong, because this fragrance to me is absolutely incredible, and it is unisex. I don't think that this fragrance leans in any direction. This is truly a unisex fragrance. I can see a lady or a gent wearing it for any occasion, day or night, dress it up, dress it down. And to top it all off, this is a fragrance that I think is perfect for any season of the year. This is a fragrance that opens up quite spicy. But that spiciness is like, In the opening, for me, the fragrance is definitely fresh, spicy, but later it becomes like a bit warm. It's more of like a warm, spicy fragrance. In the opening, you are going to get those spicy notes. I clearly get the anise, but I'm also picking up on cinnamon in the opening. And at that, the opening does have a certain degree of airiness to it because you have some citrusy notes. Now, I can't remember what note they disclosed. I think it may be orange, but I'm picking up more than just orange in that airiness and that citrusy quality of the opening. As the journey continues, the fragrance becomes more and more ambery and warm spicy, and it is just absolutely a delight to wear. There's like an inherent warmth to the fragrance, but curiously enough, although it is very ambery and it has that warmth with those spicy notes, it is a fragrance that I have actually pulled and worn during this very hot summer a couple of times, and it performs beautifully. Here, you're also going to have quite a bit of vanilla. There is the note of leather, but it is so smooth, I barely pick it up. I actually pick up more on the tobacco than the leather note itself. But the tobacco is like a moist, sweet tobacco. And then that note of licorice just puts everything over the top, because at the dry down, I get a very ambery fragrance that is definitely warm, spicy, that is not cloying in any kind of way, but does have a certain degree of denseness to it. And I clearly pick up on that very smooth tobacco, which gives the fragrance quite a bit of character and oomph. This is a fragrance that also has incredible performance. I am absolutely in love with this. This one is really becoming like a rival to other Dries Van Noten fragrances that I have in my collection, and which are lifers, because this is such a welcome addition to my collection. Definitely. You know, it's just that the way that the entire blend has been done is so beautiful. And the fact that I can have a fragrance such as this and be able to wear it all throughout the year is just a win-win for me. This is a fragrance that will give you an air of like being practical. This is an individual who is very practical about every matter of life, right? They don't take things very seriously. They are very responsible, but they're also very practical in their ways, in their views, and in their approach to life in general. That is the vibe that I get from this fragrance. Another thing that I do get at the dry down but has not been disclosed is I get a tad of booziness. If you've picked up this fragrance or you've tried it, do you get like a tad of booziness at the dry down? Because it may just be my imagination, or it may be coming from the licorice, I don't know. But I am getting a tad of booziness in this fragrance, just a little tiny bit of booziness at the dry down and throughout the wear of the fragrance. All in all, this is incredible. To me, this is for sure a 10 out of 10 fragrance, and one that will transition me beautifully from the summer into the fall. But if you've tried this fragrance, please let us know what you think about it. This is a definite winner. So the next and last fragrance that I have for you today is one that is coming from one of my favorite fragrance houses. So it really does pain me to say what I am going to say, but I have to share this with you. So I don't even have a full bottle, and I am so glad that I did not pick up the full bottle. And while I know that this fragrance is becoming like a love for many, for me right now, it is not a love. It is not a dislike, but it is also not a full-on like yet, and much less a love. And I'm speaking about the latest from Mind Games, and this one is Kingside. Now, when it comes to the latest launches from Mind Games, they had two fragrances that were launched. There was Queenside and Kingside. And these originally came out in like 200 ml decants. And I shared that with you during a Saturday morning chatty scent corner. And I told you that I was not going to pay $800 and something for a 200 ml. Nobody needs, in my opinion, a 200 ml of a fragrance if you have a collection, you know, like the one that I have. Because the only way that I would justify a 200 ml is if that's your signature scent, and that's pretty much the only fragrance that you use for the most, you know, for the most or most of the time. But I decided to get myself a sample of both of those fragrances because now they are available in an 100 ml bottle. So kindly, I did receive several samples of Kingside and Queenside. Queenside is coming in a video in the future, but I want to talk today about Kingside because this is the one that I thought that I was going to fall immediately in love with. And with all due respect, I am a little bit underwhelmed by this fragrance. So this is a fragrance that, I've tried on skin a couple of times. I received like 3 or 4 of these little samples, and here I have this one. And, this is a fragrance that I almost did blind buy. The fragrance is inherently a very, very woody fragrance to my nose with a great deal of nuttiness. I can tell you that I pick up on the pistachio, but that's the only nut that I clearly pick up on, because most of the time what I get is that woodiness. The fragrance does have a floral presence to it, but I really can't distinguish what the floral is specifically or what the florals are specifically, because as I've come to realize with most mind game fragrances, the blend is absolutely exquisitely done. So I do get a bit of booziness coming from, I believe, the note of rum, if I recall correctly. But at the end of the day, what I am getting at the dry down is quite a bit of woodiness with like a vanilla and a tad of like a caramelly effect that I know is coming from tonka. The fragrance at the dry down is beautiful. It smells incredible, but it's just not groundbreaking or a scent profile that I have not had before, or that I have, or that I currently don't have in my collection. I think that this is a scent that I'm very familiar with. No, this fragrance is not copying any other fragrance. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that what I get, the vibe that I get with it, the feel that I get with it, the scent that I get with it is one that I have in my collection several times over, which is why I couldn't justify picking up this bottle. Now, I will tell you what I am planning to do is I am planning to get myself at least a 10 ml decant and use and spray myself the way I like to spray myself for a couple of days and see if I still feel the same way. I will circle back with you if anything changes. If you don't hear from me again about Kingside, it's because nothing has changed. It really does pain my heart because, guys, I have a very large Mind Games collection. It's somewhere there in the back, but I have at this point, I think it's like 9 or 10 bottles, and I have never received PR from them. I have purchased them all, and I absolutely love the DNA of this fragrance house and the way that they approach the development of their fragrances and what they deliver to us, the consumer. So it really pains me to have to tell you that I just really... It's not that this is not a lovely scent. It is a lovely fragrance. It is a lovely scent itself. But it is just something that I feel that I have had in my collection time and time again in other fragrances. So for me, it's underwhelming, right? But that is all that I wanted to say about Kingside. Nonetheless, as I said before, I will circle back and let you know if anything has changed once I get my hands on a 10 ml decant that allows me to test it exactly how I like, not with those little tiny 2 mls that you guys know I don't like. All right, so we've reached the end of this reviews video, and I hope that I was able to provide for you as much information as you needed for each fragrance. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. But these are definitely 5 fragrances that I have worked very hard on trying, which is why I kind of even disappeared for several days, because some of them really took me aback, because I really thought that I was going to fall madly in love for Kingside, and that was not the case. And then the Carolina La Bomba one, I did, try a couple of times, not test it full day, but, I tried it a couple of times and sniffed it, and I thought, it was going to be a love. But then when I tried it on skin, it was just not doing it for me. So those are two fragrances that I definitely struggled with. But all in all, I must say that 3 out of the 5 fragrances are complete loves for me. I mean, Isola Verde, I'm really enjoying Isola Verde with that guava and that melon and all those other notes and accords involved. Beautiful fragrance. I am loving, absolutely loving Havana Gold. Absolutely impressed with it. I can't wait to just keep spraying that fragrance. And that Cedar Chic, oof, absolutely incredible fragrance. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.